You're live.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Okay. Moving on, elementary building project updates. Mr. Whitney.
The project continues to go very well. It's right on schedule. With the only bad news we've got is another delay in the window delivery to January 15th. I think our project superintendent, Doug Salzman, anticipated that because he'd been working for weeks to have those windows sealed and even put a little insulation in them, so it won't affect the schedule, which is a little more temporary heat, and it's something that will need to be squeezed in at a later time. But the rough ends going ahead. We got paint going up. We're going to do some low volt fire alarm and security stuff over the Christmas holidays in high school when nobody's there. So that schedule works well.
Yeah, I would just add, Doug and the DAC crew's done a good job of being efficient about, zoning off those areas where they really need heat, not trying to heat the entire building, but just the specific areas to try and keep that cost down. So they've been very mindful of that budget and the need to do so. So I appreciate what they're doing there.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions? Very good, thank you. Do we have any other committee reports? Okay. Consent action items, minutes and warrants.
Okay, I did review them briefly. I will move that we approve the minutes and warrants as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and warrants as presented. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Personnel, substitutes.
Ms. Johnson has retired. She subbed a few times here and there from what I understand for you guys last year, and this year she hasn't been able to. And I did speak on the phone. She said she'd be interested in the future and we'll stay in touch.
I'll move to approve the resignation of Denise Johnson as a substitute.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Denise Johnson as substitute. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Elementary office.
So Hannah has resigned. She is a new mom at home and has some other children as well. And she did a good job of working this fall. It was a very busy fall in the elementary office, and she worked very hard for us, but is going to resign from her position at this time.
I'll move to approve the resignation of Hannah Rouser from the elementary office.
Okay, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Hannah Rouser from the elementary office. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Paraprofessionals.
Hunter Bush and Mandy Hall have resigned as paraprofessionals. Mandy Hall has also resigned as the after-school coordinator. And so I would recommend that we accept their resignations for both positions.
approve the resignations of Hunter Bush and Mandy Hall.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Hunter Bush and Mandy Hall as paraprofessionals and Mandy Hall as after-school coordinator. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Hiring.
Michael Dexter has applied to be a substitute, and we would welcome him on. We're excited to have substitutes joining.
Okay, well, I move to approve the hire of Michael Dexter for the remainder of the current school year pending a background check.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Michael Dexter for the remainder of the current school year pending a background check. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passed. Long-term substitute.
So we, have had a tragic loss at the school, as all of you know, with Mr. Holland passing away. And we knew that he had been sick previously. And so we were just lucky enough to have Tyler Patrick as a student teacher this fall for us. And he's done a great job. And we had already talked to him, and Miss Hebron had already worked with him and talked to Mr. Holland about how the rest of the school year was going to play out. So we think that he would be a great fit to take over Mr. Holland's class and would be willing to take on doing all of the lesson planning and the full extent of that position. He will be certified later this school year. And because this is a long-term, even longer term than a maternity leave and more extensive with all of the lesson planning, I recommend that we pay him at the rate of $120 per day. So I don't know if there's any comments or discussion to be had on that, but that would be my recommendation. And Ms. Hebron may have something to add.
He's done an outstanding job with Lindsay as a student teacher. The kids actually nominated him for the teacher of quarter, last quarter. So that tells me a whole lot of how he's relating with the students and the kids in the building. He's been very professional. He's actually, we had been communicating with Mr. Holland on how we wanted to transition that. And I know Jim was very pleased and happy that we kind of had that perfect setup to help cover that. He felt very confident and resigned about that. He felt very good about that. So I've talked to Tyler. He was super excited initially when we were talking. This was kind of our plan anyways. And he's just happy. This is actually a huge opportunity for somebody coming right off student teaching and to be able to have that kind of an employment opportunity. I have full confidence he will do great and serve Mr. Holland's classroom the way it should be. So I have no problem with that. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a tough couple of days throughout
Yeah.
the school. We're doing okay though.
So, and then he'll have licensing as through the emergency licensure process?
So he's just finishing his student teaching. So
Yeah,
like
right,
this week,
right.
he's finishing at MSU, like all of the last stuff. And then he
Okay,
said he
okay.
has one very short online class. He has to finish like
Okay.
January, February or something. And then he's completely done. And then he'll apply for certification and be certified. So
Okay,
he's basically gone through
Right, all that.
all the hoops except for the very end stuff. He's near the end of that anyway. So definitely more than qualified. And I feel very confident in his abilities. Very confident.
The state is behind in processing licenses at this current time, but we had another teacher that didn't have her Montana license yet this year, for example.
Mhm.
And so if you write into OPI and let them know that they are employed, you can ask for the license to be expedited. So we've already had to do that this year once, so we'll do that again.
Yeah, last time I spoke to Crystal or Julie, I think they were a couple of hundred behind. I mean, there was some. huge
Yeah,
number.
months and months.
Months
So
and months behind.
I did get, when I did submit that expedition request for Sarah Tiffany's license to be expedited, we did receive it the next day. So
Oh, good.
And we just, obviously, our condolences to Mr. Holland's family. He, as I told the staff and the students, big man with a big personality and a big presence, and we'll miss him dearly. So we appreciate everything he did for our school for years and years, and all the extra time and care and love he poured into our school, so.
Yeah, and thank you, Miss Hovren and Miss Audit and everyone else, Brad and others that have been, coordinating all of that and checking in on staff and students and his family, so.
Yeah, that's a big loss for sure. Very good. Is there a motion?
Oh, sure. Yes, I move to approve Tyler Patrick as a long-term substitute for the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Tyler Patrick as long-term substitute for the 2021-2022 school year. I guess I should clarify, everybody's okay with the $120 a day?
Yes, yes,
So as submitted in the board packet.
yes.
Very good. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Next paraprofessionals.
So we have some new paraprofessionals. As you saw, we have some leaving and some coming, and the team is being very creative of how they're sharing para. All of the principals are sharing paras and trying to think about where their strengths are and personality matches for the students. And so a lot of them do many different things throughout the day. So new paraprofessionals, we have Joel Brown. He's a retired police officer, so he brings some great perspectives and skills to the team. We have Alicia Bainey, who has been a paraprofessional in some high needs and behavior areas with middle school and high school students in Washington and other locations in Montana. And Nicole Sandage, who has a nursing background and is doing an excellent job. So we have some highly qualified paraprofessionals we would like to welcome to the team officially.
Well, I move to approve the hire of Joel Brown, Alicia Bainey, and Nicole Sandage for the remainder of the current school year pending background checks.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Joel Brown, Alicia Bainey, and Nicole Sandridge, pending background checks for the remainder of the school year as paraprofessionals. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Elementary office.
So as you know, at the last meeting, we accepted the resignation of Polly. And then we are now trying to fill all of our elementary office positions. So we have a full-time position available, which we would like to offer to Allison. And then the part-time position that Allison was in, we would move Nicole to. So Nicole, who we just approved as a para, would be part-time in the office and part-time as a para. So I think that Allison and Nicole will be really warm and welcoming additions to our front office and be a good team.
I'll move to approve Allison Faria and Nicole Sandage for the elementary office.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Allison Ferreira for the full-time office. Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Substitutes.
So we received another substitute application just recently. So we wanted to add Jacob Ruzika. Did I say it right? Ruzika. Yep. All right. He is a substitute in Helena and has quite a bit of experience in different positions and would like to fill his substitute schedule and get to know the Townsend School District as well.
I move to approve the hire of Jacob Ruzika for the remainder of the current school year pending a background check.
I'll second.
It's been approved. Motion been made and seconded to approve the hire of Jacob Ruzika as a substitute pending pending a background check for the remainder of the school year. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, motion passes.
I would ask a quick question. So we've lost some paras and substitutes, we've gained some paras and substitutes. Where are we at? Are we doing any better? Well, I mean, how much, I meant that question.
So I will say that at least we're getting applicants and we're getting good, some strong applicants. So I think what we've done with that part of it is helping. It's just we've had with the office and everything, we've just had a lot of change. And so those paras, Allison's and Nicole are awesome paras and now they're going to the office. So we lose them, but then it just keeps a circle. We just keep getting the circle of change.
But where we were compared to the beginning of the year, we have had a net gain, correct?
And
We're
staffing.
better, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Yes, it's still challenging. So I think important things, and Christy and I have been looking at the budget, and I think that'll be important to take a look at as a board in the near future. And we've talked to Jason about that a bit. Because we have had some people come on that weren't a great fit, and then we've had others that are a great fit. And so we've been kind of working our way through that and trying to find that level of help that we need, but also keep the budget in mind and be conscious of the budget. So those are important things. And other considerations are we've had some high needs students that need one-on-one services that we weren't expecting. So another component to that we have to keep an eye on is our maintenance of effort, which is with our special ed cooperative, we're supposed to make sure that we pay at least the maintenance of effort every year towards our special ed services towards those students. But if we go too far over that, it can cause some challenges for our co-op and those ways as well with our funding. So those are things that we're needing to monitor. But of course, we have to offer those services to those students that require them and make sure they have the supports they need so that their teachers can teach the rest of the class and all of those kinds of things. So those have been some changes that have also impacted our staffing numbers, I would say. And we're excited about some of these new substitutes, but there are still days that we have challenges or, like this morning, Melinda jumped in until we could get someone here, those kinds of things. So it's hard, like certain days, like Fridays, or when people put in at the last minute for a substitute because they wake up sick, later, like that morning, or those kinds of things. So there's still days that are a challenge, and the principals work really hard to, work with all of the staff and arrange everyone to cover everything. But it's definitely not dire needs like we had when we had a lot of people out with COVID and those kinds of things. And we are excited about some of the new applicants are just really great assets to join the team. So.
well, that's great. That's great to know things are getting a little better. It's not there, but a little better. I guess would be fair to say.
I think that I would say my personal opinion seems to be that the incentives helped and worked for hiring for paras and for some of the positions. I think that our base rate of pay is still challenging for some people, and we have had a few people turn positions down. But I do think that we got people interested in applications in because of some of our recruitment techniques, so that's exciting. So I'm glad that you guys approved those to get us out of some of those pinches we were in this fall.
Great, well, thank you.
Very good. Moving on, the disposal of obsolete items. There's a new sheet in the one they handed out today versus the one that was in your original packet.
I apologize. I had an old one in the packet. On the back of your information packet is the updated obsolete item form.
This is the form, the updated one.
And this has to do with kitchen
Obsolete. If you're ready to get rid of me, you can get rid of me.
Just a
I'm
little
about
bit.
wore out.
Just a little bit. Just a couple.
This has to do with kitchen equipment because of the move of the kitchen and the new equipment coming in.
I'm sorry, I just added Jason's name to the obsolete. That's what that was about.
I think it's a hint.
No, it's not, just messing around.
did resignation.
Yeah, that's right.
Too late.
No, we won't allow that.
Too late.
All right, is there a motion?
Quit giggling. Where are we at? I move to approve the disposal of obsolete items as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the disposal of obsolete items as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Accept the policy contract for MTSBA services.
So this is in your original packet, and labeled 3.3 on the bottom. So as you know, and we've talked about, we have some need to take a look at our policies and make them more accessible to staff and our public. Most districts our size work with MTSBA so that they are in a digital repository online, and they will facilitate the hosting of all of that. We still get the policies that are recommended each month and alter them and make our changes and put our name on them completely. So we still work on each policy just like you guys always have. Used the recommended policies and then made them your own. We will continue to do that. However, the attorneys will double check to make sure that everything that we add and follows the law, and then they will update them and load them into the system and have any conversation with us if needed. And then they will be immediately updated online and stamped with the revision date and changed in the word I'm looking for is somebody help me out. The index, thank you, at the beginning. So they'll make sure that it lines up. So anything we add will be added then to the index so that can be easily found. And then they also will work on our handbooks to make sure that all of our handbooks and policies are aligned and there's nothing that is conflicting. So I think this is an important thing for us and change for us to make, just to make sure that we have all the required policies. We did do quite a bit of research on our current policies, and we're missing some that are required, and we have a lot that need to be updated. And so we will still be taking on a lot of work as a board to go through each of these and put our stamp of approval on them and make the changes we need to so they reflect our local Townsend school district. And they, many of them we will make changes to because we are unique. But then we will get them all uploaded and up to speed.
Yeah, I think the updated portion and the accessible portion are keys that we're missing right now on a number of these. And I think this is a necessary step for us to get caught up to where we really should be. And I don't think we can honestly get there in a timely fashion with just the board doing it the way we have been. And I really think MTSBA is the right route to go on this. I know we talked about looking at doing something with BIA too, but I think when it comes to school policy and doing this process, I feel like MTSBA is the route to go. And the majority of the schools do, so that has to speak to something too. So that's my thoughts, I guess.
Well, and then housing the content and organizing it is important and valuable. So no doubt about that. I'm just curious, what were because of the recommendations MTSBA, and no, I have no issue with that. What were some of the points between COLAVA and MTSBA that you considered?
So I definitely looked into both, and if you remember earlier this fall presented kind of information from both of them. But MTSBA has staff that are responsible just solely for policy, and that every time I've called or emailed, I've gotten an answer back within, a couple of hours just regarding policy. I think Bea is incredible and her work is great, but she focuses a lot on, and I reach out to her for those more technical, like scenario or discipline kind of, or special ed issues that we may have. But NTSBA seems to have really the Cadillac model for policy and for accessing it online.
Better specialists.
They specialize in policy. So where I would definitely, say that we would want to work with Bea like we have on special ed or discipline scenarios or those kinds of things. So definitely looked into that and spoke with different school administrators, and that's kind of what I came to find. When I am trying to find policy or information, I do use their website and go, quickly through other school districts to try to get ideas and those kinds of things. It is really easy to access for parents or other staff, and I think it'll be a good tool for all of us. And then you just put the link on our website that goes straight to our policies that they have outlined, and it's searchable, very searchable and user friendly. So
I just had a couple of questions. When MTSBA reviews our current policies, they're going to, any modifications they have or any changes, we're gonna be able to track that, see that as they're doing that.
So they'll bring us recommendations, and then, so like I said, we still have a lot of work to do, but
Right.
they'll review our current policies and transfer them over into, so we have a policy number system that
Right.
aligns. I don't know if you remember the military children's one, for example, the one that I've seen in other districts in the MTSBA military children's policy number conflicted with one of our other policy numbers. So we'll go through a renumbering system, and anything that is quite outdated or they feel, conflicts with our handbook, those kinds of things, they'll bring all those recommendations to us. And so we'll go through each of those policies at each of our meetings. And so we will be spending more time on policy work in our upcoming meetings as we do that. Nothing will be changed without the board approving it on our current policies.
Okay. And I guess my other question, now, is this like an annual, how does this work? They're just gonna go through it one time, and then as we go through, then we'll have, that completed set, and then we'll probably be reviewing, typically like we were before, just a few policies a month over the course of a few years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that how you envision that happening?
Yes.
Okay.
So
If there's any changes though, so they update it onto their site, our changes?
So we right now don't have access to their recommended policies in a format that we can edit or manipulate. So from now on, they'll come in a Word document to us, their recommended policies. As part of the service, we get access to the Word document form. And so we will make the changes that make sense for our district and go over those at the board meeting and make those changes. And then we send it back to them. And they just make sure that none of it conflicts with any other law or policy. And then they upload the version that we submit to them to our
Okay. In that evaluation,
policies.
let's say they find something in their opinion that is not aligned with statute, does that come back to the board then? I mean,
Yes.
okay, because I think ultimately we would have that decision. I mean, we certainly would want their input, maybe talk to Bea about something like that, or you guys would, I guess, but so we have an annual charge on this then?
There's a maintenance fee. On the second page, it talks about it. So it is an ongoing thing if you choose for it to be. in there. I think it's $1,000 or $1,100 for a maintenance, which is what they will do. That would be an annual fee if you continue to stay with that.
And that's for maintaining the web portion and everything. Yeah, $1,100. And there definitely are challenges right now, as we've had parents bring to us, discrepancies between what our handbook states and what policies state. And so that's been hard to handle and try to figure out why we have those discrepancies. And according to BIA, the policy trumps, or the handbook trumps policy, because the handbook's what's passed out to families, for example. So we've had those issues happen this fall.
Okay.
So that's where you can get
Right.
kind of in the sticky water where there's gray areas and unintended consequences. And then it just doesn't reflect very well or look very professional when we've got two different things out there. So we just want to make sure so this would be, I think, well worth the money to utilize their service and make sure that we get everything straightened out, and then we'll be on a track to stay up to date and keep things aligned.
Still sounds like we have all the pieces in place though to keep our own, the board's own capacity to make sure these are the right policies and fit our school and because that's important too. I think that's an important piece.
Definitely. And we will still read, I'll still do the research and present to the board when we're looking at these policies. And I know that many of you also received the emails from MREA and from BIA. She sends out policy notes on take a close look at this section for your school, or MREA might say for rural schools, you might really want to think about this policy and change it to this. So we'll still keep those eyes out and make sure that we adjust policies to fit our school district and our students and our vision and values.
A final question for me was just, what's the turnaround time till, and whatever it is fine. I would just to get sort of a handle on it. What's the turnaround time till the policies would be out there and accessible?
I think it'll be pretty quick. I think they're ready to get to work. They've been very responsive, and I've been communicating with them for a couple months about it. And this contract, when I sent them a message the other day and let them know that we were leaning towards working with them, and that I wanted to make sure I had a current updated contract, make sure they hadn't changed their fees or anything. They sent me this back the next day, and Chris Goss, who's their policy specialist, reached out to me and just said he was excited to begin working with us if we went that route. So they seem pretty on top of it and ready to go.
Okay, all right, great. Well, at this point, I would move to approve the proposed MTSBA contract for policy and handbook.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed MTSBA contract for policy and handbook services. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Thank you for your patience, Mr. McGimsey. FF&E.
Do we need to do the principal review first?
Oh, no, we're good.
We're all right.
We're good for now.
All right. So Shane was unable to make it today. He asked me to be here to kind of walk you guys through the FF&E process, kind of where we're at, and then talk to you guys about the value engineering. So just kind of take it from the top. We worked very diligently with the building committee, the teachers, got the package all pulled together in a very timely manner. One of the things we're up against right now is lead times on furniture. So really what we're trying to work towards is getting contracts in place with the furniture vendors prior to the end of the year, which will give us about 8 months roughly to get furniture here in place, ready to go before the school year starts in the fall. So we had really good coverage relative to the bidding. So how we tailor this bid process is each individual furniture item is bid by all of these different vendors. So we had 5 total vendors bidding. So a student chair, we had 5 different bids. Those vendors are awarded items, not the entire package. And what that allows us to do is provide for an open and competitive bid and provide the school district with the best possible pricing, because we're not going by one person's package. We're going by one person's pricing on an individual item. So we felt really good with the coverage we received, but unfortunately, bids came in well over our original budget. So our original budget was $360,000 for the furniture. We are about 200,000 over that mark. We've seen obviously a huge increase in material costs and commodity costs, lead times all through COVID, and even through this year, we've seen 30% cost increases in building construction over just the last 9 months. So it's not like the building committee went crazy with this and we selected a bunch of opulent stuff. This is all very durable. It's going to serve the district very well. It's quality built stuff, but it's not like we're doing gold-plated desks and things of that manner. So
I would add real quick, just for anybody on the camera, that budget was created almost 2 years ago.
correct.
Pre-COVID, pre-everything we're dealing with right now. So that's how old that budget number was.
Yeah, and I was talking with Jason a little bit before the meeting, and the Townsend School project, actually, we got this in at the right time, because the school projects we're working on now that are going to be going out to bid, they're in the same circumstance, only they've seen a whole nother year of cost escalation. So the district's very fortunate that we got the project under construction when we did. We're not seeing huge delays. I mean, a little bit, like we're seeing a little bit on glass and whatnot, but for the most part, I mean, we're dried in, ready to go before winter hit. So I couldn't feel better about, how the timeline worked with this project. Just as kind of a side note. So what we did is we kind of took a look at the overall FF&E package, and then I went through and identified some items as potential value engineering items. I shared these with all the teacher, and I did receive some feedback. For the most part, teachers are receptive to utilizing some of their current furniture if we need to bring costs down. There are some pieces, so that was really nice of them to kind of bring that to the forefront as an option, as well as I had a few share concerns just relative to storage, and we've gone to lengths to try to provide the, faculty and the staff with ample storage throughout the building. A lot of these value engineering items, unfortunately, kind of are looking at some of that storage. So I'll just kind of walk you through these items individually. My computer went to sleep 1 second. So the first item we looked at was revising the quantity of stools in the commons. So we've got, as you walk into the commons, we've kind of got a high top bar that delineates the commons where the students sit for lunch and kind of the circulation corridor. And the design of this was meant for certain processes. So talked about teachers meeting with parents there. We talked about kids waiting for parents there as parents come in and are waiting for kids. It's kind of this nice zone that's delineated for that. So currently we've got 20 stools at this high top bar, 10 on each side of it. Looked at potentially removing half of those. You can see it isn't really a big ticket item, but it was one area that we could look at without affecting the number of seats within the commons. So we had shot for a 200 seating capacity within the commons at our lunch tables and then the foretop. This would not affect that seating number. The second one ended up, it came back really weird, I'll be honest with you. So we looked at One of the things when we're working with the building committee and the teachers, each teacher has a desk. And there's a mobile pedestal with a box file storage on one side. There was an option to do a double, so it would have kind of storage on both sides of the desk, which was, it was a betterment above and beyond. So we're like, well, let's price that out and look at it. It came back that we would only save $413 total over all of the teacher desks somehow. So I think that one's kind of a no-brainer that for $413 we can provide the teachers with that dual pedestal. The next one's this is our big ticket item. So within each one of the classrooms, the storage solution we worked out with the teachers is each of the students will have a small plastic tote, and that fits into their desk, and it also fits into a storage cabinet within the room. So this creates the flexibility of those students being able to take their tote with their pens and pencils, school supplies, out into the flex learning areas, to the learning stair within the building, to the library, to different areas within the building very easily. And it also allows the teachers to kind of monitor what's inside of these totes. We always try to avoid the science experiments, like the kids stuffing the banana into the back of their desk and being there. So each of the classrooms was to have 3 low storage units, which each house 10 of these totes. The cost savings would be to remove those 3 storage units and provide 1 tall storage unit that would still have 30 totes in it, but then you've got a mobile unit that's taller that can't be put underneath the window. So it's a little less flexible within the classroom. The tall unit does provide a whiteboard on the one side of it that could be used in the classroom as a mobile whiteboard. So functionality wise, we still have storage for the totes. We just shave off doing 3 individual units for 1 unit, which is, around $36,000. The next one, the activity tables in the flex spaces. So each pair of classrooms shares a side of the flex area. And the flex area has 2 different learning zones. Both of these zones, the teachers wanted to have an activity table, which is kind of a kidney-shaped table. It would have 5 stools and then the teacher station, so the teacher could have small group activities going on there, different type of activities. What we looked at is just removing 1 activity table out of each pair of flex spaces. So they would still have 1, but wouldn't have the other. And I did get a little bit of a concern just with, we would go to more of like a lounge style on the one side versus more of a traditional learning style. So there was a couple of comments relative to that. By doing so, we could save almost $8,000 with that one. The soft furniture in the sped rooms, we took a look at the sped rooms and we do have those pretty well packed with furniture. There was 2 soft furniture items that we looked at potentially value engineering out of each of the title and the sped rooms, both first and second floor, while leaving the soft rocking chair, which is kind of a critical component for the sped curriculum and just kind of utilization by the students. That one's about $4,600. There were some additional fire-rated filing cabinets in the administration area. These are actually pretty expensive, and this is an item, in sitting down with Jason and Shane and reviewing this in Billings last week, that these could be purchased by the district at a later date or found used, either through like property surplus in Helena or other means. So $7,400 by removing those. The music stands, so there are some existing music stands that could be reutilized, reducing that number from 75 to 45, $2,760. So the flex stools from 5 to 2 per classroom. So the upper second floor classrooms, the upper grade levels do not have an activity table like the K-2 classes do. What they have is 5 mobile stools that can be moved around the room for students that are needing to move and whatnot. So we took a look at the quantity of those and figured, like, if we put 2 of them in each of those classrooms, and then there will still be some in the flex areas outside of the classroom, that those could kind of be shared between the areas, and we would probably be able to get by, with that quantity. So that's actually a pretty significant number, $11,350. And then the last item we looked at is revising the student desks from an 1.25 inch thick top to a 3/4 inch thick top. So we've been assured by the manufacturer, these are fairly small desks. We don't see a huge detriment to doing that. I mean, obviously you lose some of the rigidity of it, but as part of our policies that are being updated, that we could get by with doing that. And that was actually fairly significant at, $9,180. So overall, we've got a total of potential VE identified of $81,250. If that full value engineering was accepted, that would bring our overall budget to $483,164, which is $123,164 over our original $360,000 budget. So although we really don't see a path without cutting into bone as far as like getting back to that 360, we can bring that differential back by looking at any or all of these items. What our recommendation is, kind of looking at the overall FF&E package and the budget and the funding, is to request from the school board to fund the overage in the FF&E package out to pledge bond premium money right now to fund the overage, with the understanding that as we get closer to the end, we still have a very good chunk of contingency dollars remaining in the project, but we want to hold that as long as we can, if there's any unforeseens. But where we are in construction currently, and with the amount remaining, we're over 50% complete on DAC's contract, and largely we're into finishes right now in the majority of the school. We still have the tie-in with the commons, and we do have some, unknowns that we have to experience with demoing the old school. So this kind of plays it safe. If we pledge the bond premium funds and don't utilize the contingency now, with the understanding that contingency dollars remaining would fund it, it would get us down the road with getting these contracts executed, getting the furniture ordered, and ensuring that the furniture's here. We're doing everything possible at that point to get the furniture here before school starts. We had a couple of, not with A&E's projects, but within the state, furniture did not arrive to those projects in time last fall. So it was a pretty big scramble to try to figure out how they're gonna put kids in seats. So it's kind of a overview. I know I talked to Kevin last week, and I talked to Jason. I haven't talked to Sean yet on this, but that's kind of where we're sitting.
So what was the teacher's input on that storage? It seems to me that taller unit might be harder for the kids to get the totes off of
I was thinking the same thing.
above their head.
It would. It's just the flexibility. So in the sped and title rooms, we actually have that taller unit, but that's a level of instruction that's a little bit above what our general classrooms are gonna have. And one of the things, we didn't have the room to do the lower storage, and the other was they kind of liked that as kind of a divider within the room for like smaller subgroups maybe that they're working with. Whereas the general classrooms, obviously you kind of want to keep that a little more open, lines of sight are better, and then, you're not putting a tall cabinet against a window and, blocking a window in the classroom.
Yeah, are these totes something that, the kids aren't using anything like that right now, really?
They have desks right now though, and these are not your typical lift the lid up type of a desk. So that's what they have now to use.
Right, yeah.
And they're looking at the mobility of it, which makes sense if they're gonna be using like those areas outside of those flex areas and the learning stairs. And I kind of get that. That was actually pretty clever.
Yeah, and we worked, so there was kind of a divide between the teachers. The desks that open and you've got the storage within the desks versus some teachers wanted the tables versus some teacher wanted the storage like in individual desks. And by going with the desk that we've chosen, we kind of shepherded the group towards a very flexible learning environment. So the desks that flip open and the chairs actually attach to the desk doesn't allow you to have these reconfigurable kind of pedagogy opportunities in the classroom, right? You can't really pull them into small groups. These are able, you can put them in rows, you can put them in a big circle, you can put them in small individual groups. They're just highly configurable for a lot of different applications and opportunities for the teachers to explore. The solution we ended up with was we got a storage solution after we worked through it, which did take some time and some effort.
And what was the savings on that one if we went to the tall tower versus the,
$36,600.
and that was one that you did get feedback on?
I didn't have anybody say they were highly opposed to that one, no.
And right now, Kevin, they have their stuff in their desk, but they also have bags on our lower grades behind the desk, so that these kids put some of their stuff here, and these kids, because they do move,
Right.
you know, which I could see something like this, they could take that, they can go out in the flex group, or they can go to
Instead
another
of using like their
classroom.
backpack? they
We
use
don't
that?
do the backpacks in the classroom.
Okay,
Yeah.
what do you buy a bag then?
This is a bag that actually hangs on the back of the chair right
Oh,
now.
okay.
And they
Chair
put their
pocket.
stuff- Yeah, chair pocket, they, yeah. they put all their
$36,000
stuff
backpack.
in. Yeah.
Nice one.
So it's just like this one. I don't think the tall one is any big deal, but I'm talking just the desk in general, having that where they can move it around wherever they go.
You don't think the tall one is a big deal for kids to get their stuff off of there?
I mean, I think it can work no matter. I mean, it's tall, yeah, I get it, but I think you can still have teachers help get the upper ones and.
But is it worth saving how much money?
I don't know. You're gonna be living with that for 20 years. That's a lot of
That's true.
teachers doing this,
That's true.
getting stuff down for students over the next.
That's what I'm
Have we-
saying. I don't know if it's
that's-
worth the savings.
Yeah,
On that
Yeah.
one. That's not that much savings.
I don't know.
No, and with the three lower units, it does provide a surface for, the teachers to have different things,
They could use
How
that
much
as
is the savings?
36,000.
$36,605.
It sounds like a lot to.
I guess that is
I'll
more
tell you
than-
what,
Sounds like
that's
a lot.
not
Walk down there
lot.
and get it for 36.
That's what I was, 36,000 seemed like a lot, but I guess
You're
the
gonna
other.
run around, be taking.
This'll be,
Reach up and get that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you're
look, I
looking
guess
at
I-
36,000 and 6% of that 564, give or take.
Correct.
So I, in my mind, and I guess I haven't really thought about it a lot. So in this discussion that you're having is really helping me form ideas. But, I think that at face value, at least, I would certainly support pledging the bond premium money to cover these at this point, in my mind.
I would
Because
agree
this
about-
was a form, these were framed out early on as being beneficial for various pedagogies, various styles of education. So I think it's important to maintain that idea.
The one question I do have, because this has been asked of several times by teachers, is have we looked at what we have so far? Like, because we have a lot of flexible seating and stuff now. Has that been calculated into? I mean, what are we doing with that? Is that just getting thrown aside, or is it being calculated in to be used again?
It's not being calculated into use again. The thought was, we have a new school, we want to
Yes.
have new equipment in it. Now, the discussion has been had that there's nothing saying that people can't bring some of that stuff, but the point of the FF&E was budgeted so that didn't have to happen.
So we aren't moving old stuff into it.
Well, I think like the desk and stuff I get, but I'm talking about the flexible seating and stuff is not stuff we've had forever, that's newer.
There's probably some older stuff that we can use and will use, and older stuff we won't, I suspect.
I would hate to see these big tall towers get put in front of windows and stuff. You know, you
Yeah,
mentioned that,
that's-
that's what bothers me. I'm like, why would we have these great classrooms with these nice windows and then we're gonna throw a big thing in the window? I don't know.
I think Kevin's point, the accessibility to the kids, to me, that's kind of the big.
Heck, the accessibility to me, I'm not sure I can reach up there.
Yeah, when you think there's,
How tall
you
are
know,
these?
they've got pencils and pens and, you know, with
I
everything
have a lot
in
of
there,
those.
I mean, if there was a mishap, it's not the greatest, right? Because then you just have stuff going everywhere.
Well, we'll
Mr.
process
Rock's
this.
gonna be the permanent tote puller. Put her in her.
I was
You're a
wondering
toter.
what the cost of the step ladders were going to be to offset that savings.
They'll be standing on the desks that if we were using the top.
On the workers' comp.
I was just
There
saying
you
the
go.
same thing, workman's comp.
It's a skills class.
Well, at this point, you know, just at face value, is there anything, I mean,
Well, the question is, you know,
Yeah.
there's kind of two questions. You know,
Yeah.
even with those, it's still over budget, so we have to choose to accept or not accept that. And then also we can choose to accept or not accept the VE item. So there's kind of two questions on which value you're willing or suggesting that we agree to fund.
in my mind, given the cost, the minimal cost savings, I would, in my mind, I think, supporting all of those.
Take the original.
Take the original,
Take the
because they were originally decided with goal in mind.
Right, and that's what I come back to too. The
You
teachers
didn't
ask.
design a lot of fat into it initially or anything. I mean, there's just not,
Teachers
there's not a lot
ask.
of fluff in there to start with.
No, and you can see we kind of got down to some pretty
400
insignificant items, and I'm not gonna say they're insignificant, but, you know, you have to have so many students per classroom. And you have to have, you know, so many student chairs, and you have to have so many lunch tables and everything. So, you know, our quantities fit with current, you know, classroom maximums, which my understanding, and what we initially looked at is like, oh, well, we've got those 2 extra classrooms on the second floor. We could just not put any furniture into those. What we did is we designed those exactly the same as every other second floor classroom. Desks, chairs, teacher's table, you know, for the future. And my understanding is we're already going to be filling those classrooms with students, so we don't really have the opportunity to say we're not going to do it, because that would have, you know, been a pathway too. But I think with where the numbers of students are trending in the district, I think it would be a little bit short-sighted, you know, to say, okay, we're going to, you know, cut these stools or cut, you know, make these cuts, because you'd probably end up be buying them in a couple of years anyways, and who knows how much they cost at that point. Maybe it would be better, I don't know, at some point things have to turn around for us.
So is the motion as written, does that include, what does that include?
We need to add, to approve the
We would need-
budget, at which level you'd like to approve the budget, and then also to approve that it's paid with the bond premium.
I guess before you do that, I want to
Yeah,
ask one
yeah.
question, because we haven't talked about, but the lockers.
Correct, middle school lockers.
Is it important that they would be ordered? I mean, is that a discussion we should have with this, or do you think it can wait?
If we want them in for fall, I think they should be all ordered together.
Okay, so originally, if you remember back, we bid the middle school lockers as an alternate, and then we kicked it out. We didn't do it. As Brad will attest, since that time and since the middle school's done, the middle school teachers have hoped and wished that we would bring that back in. So they bid that with this. It's not included in this dollar figure. But I think now, if that's something we think we are willing to do, I think this is the time to probably do that in two. But that would add 40,000
Correct.
to that number, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So why we tailored that with the bid is we had always talked when we pulled that out with our original contract with DAC, we were gonna hold that for the end. And if we had contingency, that was gonna be one of our highest priority items. So I just issued those lockers with this bid package, so we would have competitive bid process already complete. We wouldn't have to go, reinvent the wheel, do a whole
Makes
nother
sense.
bid process. And so we can either choose to accept that alternate or not accept that alternate. And we don't have to do that today, but to Jason's point, with timing wise, if we want those lockers to be in by fall with everything else, it would be prudent, that those be ordered along with the rest.
So I'm gonna ask you, just because I know the teachers have come to you, if you would just share briefly what.
Well, just actually a lot of public feedback from visitors, as I have heard multiple times, why did we redo this whole school and put the same old lockers back in it? It looks terrible. I mean, that's the gist of what I get from
I don't
visitors,
disagree.
and and I say I don't really know. But yeah, it's, our lockers, not only from a looks thing, but also from a usage, mechanical usage, need a lot of work. We have a lot of just ones that are not functional and are gonna require some repair. I think it'd be a very wise decision to go for, to get new lockers at this time.
Well, we're not gonna have another meeting before the first of the year, and you said you wanted to order the furniture before the first of the
Yeah, I'd
year.
like to.
So if we're gonna do it, I think we need to.
The one question on the taller towers, were they the deeper bins,
I agree, I think.
like the shorter ones?
I would
I
agree.
think it's something we will probably come back to at
The
the end.
3-inch bins on the
We
top
would
of
probably
the
do
towers.
it.
I
So the
think
shorter
so.
towers
In my
are
mind,
deeper?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so then that would
That's
change.
what we had worked through with the teachers. Those.
Right, you want the shorter towers to have the deeper bins.
Correct.
Okay,
The burnt
so
orange
what
and the
we're
lime
doing,
green drives
just so
Sherry and I
understand.
nuts.
It drives me insane. Every time I walk in that hallway, I'm like, the orange lockers have to go.
Oh,
They
604.
just have to go, they look
And
so
then
bad.
approve that
It
one,
looks so
and then approve that
Can't stand
for the.
bad. It's a set of.
The difference. See, the
That's
360 is already
That's what
approved,
I-
right, yes.
200.
Aesthetically not.
So if you got that, Kevin, that's just go.
So the difference would be,
Okay.
so 4.5.
There are, like, honestly.
Should have done more legwork on my drafted motion.
Give me this over again, right?
Plus 4.
Oh, so it's 455.84.
But it's, oh, it's an admin office.
204, 455.84.
They just.
244.
Okay, right.
Okay.
With the middle school lockers. Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Okay. I'll move to approve the FF&E budget for the elementary school project under the current bid. And also move that the board approve the dedication of premium funds to cover the budget overage of $244,415.84.
Hey, second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve and allocate premium dollars to make up the difference in the original budget of $244,415.84. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the right decision.
We try.
Me too. Doing a fine
And
job.
I know you'll make a lot of teachers happy. I'm definitely in the camp that those middle school lockers
Oh, they gotta go.
need to go. We've tried to work in several different ways, so.
Thank you for
Thank you.
your efforts
Thank you
and
very
your
much.
and your
Drive safe.
diligence to do that. That is-
You're very welcome.
Ready to get the pins out.
I was in awe by the time he took with each detail with all the staff, so yes,
he's-
thank you
he's
very
a
much.
Very patient.
If you look at the spreadsheet that I sent Jason, I mean, it gets pretty complicated because you've got 100 items and 5 different bidders. And, yeah,
I was gonna try and print it, but it took a piece of paper about that.
okay, we'll get contracts drafted and ready to go.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay,
Thanks.
chief, or principal's reports, we're gonna go backwards, we'll let Sherry go first.
Oh, man.
It's a time event.
We're doing well. We have lots of time. We're good. But just in case.
Brad doesn't need to come.
Okay, so all of our winter activities are in full swing. Speech and drama is rolling well so far. They won a few meets, and I think they kind of got their bearings a little bit when they went to Laurel this past week, competing with all the double A's. That was a whole new experience, but it was good. They were really excited to have those opportunities to compete with those bigger schools and kind of get an idea of where their levels need to be. Basketball teams are off and running. We had our first big home game against Park High, and then they did the tip-off tournament over in Manhattan last weekend, and they are coming out looking pretty impressive to start with here. So and the wrestlers as well. Wrestlers went and did very well competing in their first couple of contests as well. So busy. We're on the run again. We're on the move. We did our first session of MAPS testing for the year. We have not MAPS tested for, gosh, I want to say a couple of years. We lost the one spring when we went remote, and then we lost all of last year just because of putting kids together to do all, yeah, it was just a mess. So we were happy to get that done. We tried a whole new way of doing it with the kids using their individual devices instead of grouping them into labs, because again, we're still trying to be fairly cautious about putting a bunch of kids together for long periods of time. And it actually worked really well. And thank you to the tech team for helping us out managing any little hiccups or problems that we had. And basically the kids we designated certain periods for tests, and they just stayed in their designated classes for that time. And we covered wherever the seniors were, because we don't really test the seniors for obvious reasons. They're on their way out, and we know where they are in their academia by that point anyways. So it went fairly well. We're trying to figure out the makeup scenario for kids that missed the test, how we're going to make that work, but we're well on the way to getting that all worked out. And obviously this is a big, data point for us. We're really interested in seeing where our kids and students are after all the disruptions in their learning for one reason or another, whether it was remote learning, whether it was, just the different situations in person yesterday and the remote in the spring. And so we're really interested in seeing what that data is going to show us. And, obviously in general, the staff feel like most of the kids are doing quite well. And honestly, the end of the quarter stuff looked pretty good. I felt pretty good about where most students seem to be doing in their classes. So we'll see where we are.
Or with MAPS, now what is that, which disciplines is that assessing?
We do reading, language arts, math, and then there's a science component. So we do all of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then language arts, okay, math, and it's science, okay. And then, so with that, I was just curious, are those results then, they're probably correlated to everybody else in the state at this given time at this point in time, as well as historically, correlated historically?
I think both, yeah, both.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Pre-COVID and
Right.
during COVID and then,
right.
okay.
And it's like any, kind of benchmark testing where it's just like, the average eighth grader would be here, in reading or math would score here, or whatever. And then you see, you have your kids that are below that, you have your kids that are way above that. And it's just that kind of benchmark testing. So we can see, are they
That gives you detailed information too, so you can dive in.
And then I was curious, is that benchmark, does that include the COVID year? Or is it historically developed kind of longitudinally before that?
That's really a good
I
question.
don't know that the numbers changed after COVID. I think the benchmarks are still the same right now.
So they stayed pre-COVID basically? Okay.
Yes.
I haven't
Which is
actually-
fine, I'm just curious how that sort of.
yeah,
The
no.
benchmark, the last, I don't remember if it was 18 or 19 was the last update that they did on their benchmark.
Okay,
Probably because everybody was in the same position. They
Yeah.
weren't testing,
Yeah, okay.
so yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And I haven't had a chance to even get in it. We just did the testing, so we're not quite to that step yet. But start looking at those results and see where we are.
Are these adaptive kind of exams, or are they just more of a true, false, multiple choice, traditional sort of format?
It's multiple choice.
Multiple choice.
Sort of a
yeah.
traditional, okay.
Yeah. And then the math, they're actual problem, I mean,
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
I mean, they have to work the problems and then,
And then select the, okay,
Correct,
right,
correct.
okay, thank you very much, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. We did have, honestly, it was an awesome experience. The FCCLA, Ms. Mtsba and her students on the Family Consumer Science kids, they did an adulting day with the juniors and seniors. It turned out awesome. We had a great time. Basically, the morning they did a bunch of trivia that we had all kind of gathered depending on what our topics were that we were covering with the adulting day. And she obviously, there were prizes and they were in teams and there was a lot of fun with that. And then they did, we just did stations and groups of students rotated through all of these different stations in the one gym. There was a banking station, there was a taxes station, there was a social dancing station, hilarious. It was the best. I was right next to them and I just could not stop laughing. It was so cute. But just basic, okay, here's like 3 dance moves that you can always rely on to do. And she taught them how to do a box step. And it was just it was really great. The kids loved it. They were changing tires on an ATV and with Townsend Tire, and Mike's crew was really nice to have a couple guys, and they went through all of the, these are the things you need to check, and just lots of basics. Mrs. Helen did job interviewing, right?
Yeah.
She did job interviewing. I actually did a whole station on being organized and cleaning, and these are the things you need to do. And when you go to adult, you have to make sure you know how to do the laundry. And it was great. We had a blast with the kids. It was really fun. So kudos to Ms. Mtsba and her students for that. That was a fun activity. I think it will probably catch on and stick around. And I know the stations might change, but that was really good. That was really fun.
The kids were really engaged and really good.
Yeah, it was fun to step into a teacher role again. That was nice. We are planning for our kind of, we call it the Christmas Extravaganza. That's the name my advisory board has given it. And we're planning a lot of fun activities for our students for that half day before we get out for Christmas break that we've always done. They really want to revive the talent shows, so hopefully that happens. We get enough people to sign up, and pickleball and just different activities and events that they can do to kind of just slide into the holiday season. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're working on a plan for the 21st of January, which is what we kind of discussed last week, last meeting, what we're going to do with that day when we have 16 wrestling teams here in our high school and no parking. And we're trying to work out a plan where we have most of our high school off campus somewhere doing a field trip or an activity. And the teachers had a lot of really great ideas about, what we can do with some of that. So we can free up our building to run Class B duels. It'll be an exciting time. It'll be busy. Upcoming activities, pretty quiet right now. We're getting to the end of things. We have our concerts going on right now. The high school concert is tonight at 7. Elementary concert is Thursday at 6. So they'll be going that. I heard the middle school concert was really nice last night. It went very well. So I wasn't able to attend, but I heard it was really great. So I'm glad to hear that. We're kind of out of sync with that as well. We haven't had concert. We have 2 new music teachers. So this will be our first time, tackling that. And I'm sure everything will go well. And they're doing a fine job, it sounds like. We are out early on December 23rd at noon. And then we're on winter break the 24th through the 2nd. And for the first time in a long time, we actually have no activities after next Tuesday, not on the weekend of 1st of January. We're free and clear until the following week. And that will be a very, very nice break for everyone. So I think that'll be good. I had one other note here. I don't want to forget. So I just wanted the board to know, I have visited with Sarah on several occasions, and I wanted you guys to know that Mr. Holland's celebration of life is going to be December 26th at 2:00 at the Mormon Church. And all are invited. And he will hopefully be buried at the fort this week. That was what their plan was and what he wanted. So Fort Harrison. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Brad?
With the holidays coming up, everything's very busy here at school. Going pretty smoothly, but we're seeing a lot of the kind of holiday issues that we see amongst middle school students and families and those kind of things. There's a lot of good programs out there for families. We've sent some information home about Christmas Connection and all the different programs available. Mrs. Flynn helped organize that along with some others. And hopefully all our families are getting what they need as the holidays approach. And then the holidays are usually a pretty busy time up here at school between practices, and Jim and his crew usually do some work on the floors and everything. So it kind of keeps on rolling. Our attendance issues with the COVID, we, knock on wood, have not seen a lot of situations where we've had to have large groups mask up. We have had a lot of those have come from home where students were exposed, parents have notified us. But we are seeing after attendance getting a little better for a while. I don't know that it's COVID related, but we are seeing our attendance numbers start to go up a little bit as far as absences. Concert last night, as Ms. Hever mentioned, it was a success. Both teachers did a nice job. We had a really good crowd. We had to put out more chairs for everybody before we got started. And one of the things we start planning this time of year is our behavior code field trip. Part of what we do is for students that stay below a certain number of points in our behavior code, they use some of the candy money that we raised to take a field trip. Historically, we've had the sixth graders go skiing. We encourage them all to at least try it once. 7th and 8th graders, we've tried to give them an option. We've done some different things, but it usually involves taking them to the rock climbing wall in Bozeman. Some of that is up in the air right now, our current situation with the way businesses are operating. We don't know that that's going to be possible. They're wanting some smaller numbers of people at a time. We sent surveys home with kids to figure out which one they would be interested in. Another thing that we do is we justify all of this through kind of through our PE program, as it being a day of school and a physical education type day. And part of that with the skiing is, each student that goes skiing, you take a lesson. The school pays half through our candy money or more, and then it's a portion of it comes from the student. But then when we go up there, part of the package and part of what we do from an education standpoint is a lesson with that. Well, we're getting some, we didn't go last year because we just weren't able to do it within the COVID situation. So as we come back, some of these people, they don't want to do a lesson. So their plan is, well, we'll just, maybe take our kids up or send our kids up. And it's not, it's, in order for us to keep this trip and make it an educational trip, I feel like we really need to make it, this is what we do on our ski trip. And I think those lessons are absolutely, we go to Showdown to do a really nice job of quickly evaluating your skill level and taking you to a lesson that's appropriate for you. So, I think I'm going to be telling some parents that that's part of what we do with it. And it puts our whole us in a tough bind then when parents take them up separately and go, well, we'll just take my kid there skiing that day, and then we don't have any control over the kids, and it kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do as a school. So I'm hoping everybody will see that it's a good thing and that everybody can benefit from it. And hopefully some things come through with the rock climbing wall, because that's been a really, really successful thing. Students have loved it. They do a great job. We did look into some other things in some different communities. It's just really hard right now to get, places aren't open. They don't operate very, I think everybody's feeling that crunch of workers and everything else. So that's come into play. But hopefully we're able to keep them both going, the numbers work out, and we're able to do that. That'd be in February. that we do that. And it's a good day. It really is.
Meeting, so I appreciate your support in my absentees there. The whole setup with the COVID policy, when we changed it to mask versus sending home, I will tell you, has made a huge difference with the elementary. We're sending kids home so much that we couldn't educate at all. So kids going remote. In fact, some that did go remote in the beginning because they didn't want to do masks are now actually staying and masking up and getting the education. So we're starting to see it change the format a little bit with that. The reading curriculum we've been working on, we've got some classrooms that are testing it. We've got a school that sent us videos of them actually teaching this curriculum so the teachers can actually see it in action. So hopefully that will help them make that decision on which route we want to go. Staffing, as I said, I know the stipend has really helped with that to get us new employees. We are still seeing a shortage a little bit. I think I don't know, I put on a few thousand steps today trying to help with lunch and other things today. So we're still seeing it, but it is better than it was. Classroom sizes, we've got some larger classrooms, and like they stated with the new school, if we keep going that direction. Kindergarten, we're still over. And so that's one of the things I have to use a para for. I have to have a para in a kindergarten classroom, at least 3 hours a day. And then they also have to help with the specials because we're over. So at least 3.5 hours a day, there's a para that has to be dedicated to kindergarten. So that takes up a good portion of the day. And then.
So with that, that's 20 kids
Yep.
in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Of course, more in upper grades, but 20 in.
20 is in kindergarten. We were at 23. She's down to 22 kids who actually had to have more earlier in the year, more hours.
1.5 hours for every student year over.
No, I'm sorry.
1.5 hours of teacher aid time in there for every student year over the state limit.
So if you're at 2, you have 3 extra hours per day.
Right. And we were at 23 kids at one point because all of our kindergartens had 20 kids except for hers at 23.
Okay.
So, but she is down to 22 now. I know we have another kindergartner starting, but I think we've lost in one room, so we're still going to be able to
So
keep that.
we're at 62 kindergartners. Is that right then?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And then our 4th and 5th grade classes are, I think 5th grade's 29 in both of them.
And 30 is the limit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and that's a lot of kids in one room
Oh, yeah.
to teach. And then 4th grade's about the same. I think they're 28 and 27 now, or 20 and 20, something like that.
28, 27 last time
Yeah.
I looked, yeah.
Wow,
So-
those are packed rooms.
Yeah, they are packed rooms. And there's only 2 teachers in those grades.
Yeah.
Whereas the others have 3, so, yeah. So we haven't been able to do it for a couple of years because of COVID, but we are bringing the STEAM night back this year. And in the past, we've done things like mathematics, technology, science, things like that. We hadn't touched the A, and I've been waiting for it. So this year we're doing art around the world. And so we are going to have passports for each kid, and they're going to visit different classrooms, and the art's based on some other former country that they'll get to learn about, and then get their little passport stamped and take it around to other classrooms. So, and then we're going to serve taco in a bag for the meal that night. So that's from 5 to 7 if you want to come check it out on January 18th. And then a big thank you out to the Lions Club and Rotary. Lions Club, part of our policy is we have to do vision and hearing testing for certain grade levels, new students, things like that. It's been very difficult to get it done. In the past, I've just kind of used paras when they had, when we had extra time or when a one-on-one was gone or something, but we just don't have that this year. So I spoke with the Lions Club because they have a hearing machine, and they actually offered to come in and do all of it for us. So they came in one day and we got all of our hearing testing done, or all of our vision, sorry, they have a vision machine. We got all of our vision completed, and I think 3/4 of our hearing testing done that day by them just coming in and volunteering. So it was a great help to have them come and do that. And then in doing that, they saw our archaic hearing machine. It's quite old. And so we are trying to find a replacement because the Lions Club has offered to buy us a new hearing machine. So that was very kind of them. And then the Rotary comes in each year and they present to our third graders new dictionaries. This year they actually did third and fourth since they missed last year. And so it was really nice to be able to get some of those community groups back in here again and have them visit with the kids. And it's always nice to have them come in. And then we have our concert Thursday night starting at 6 o'clock.
I have just a couple of questions about the curriculum, the reading curriculum. So, so you have, let's see if I remember right, so you're using that currently in classes, or you're testing a curriculum?
We're testing a couple, yeah.
Because you're talking about, videos from someplace else that you're trying, so you're testing it.
Correct. We're testing it because they wanted to see it. You can talk to the professionals, but they said they don't get the full picture of it. So we actually asked the school district of Zorkey had a teacher video for third grade and another one video for first grade. They've been able to observe the third grade one. They watched those, and then we actually set up a Zoom meeting with that third grade teacher. And so they actually ask her questions and get some more input on it. So it wasn't just the company selling them the program.
Yeah.
And then we have the first grade sheet. We're trying to get that one so that our lower grades can watch that one.
Now, so what program is that called? I mean, it's
This one that they've been watching is CKLA.
CKLA.
And Amplify, it's kind of known as, yeah. And this summer was Roberts, that way they got to talk with over Zoom, right? A little bit at the literacy day.
Yes.
Yeah. So they started looking at this. I mean, even last year, even before I came,
We had started on looking
yeah,
at it.
CKLA. I know that Christina and the elementary staff had been doing some professional development on the science of reading and started looking. So they already had a few sample kits when I came on CKLA because it follows the science of reading. And then there was another one that Wonders that we, so we ordered all the sample kits in for Wonders and CKLA and had a literacy expert in this summer. And between the two technology days, we did a literacy day as well. And so after that, some of them were very enthused about it and wanted to pilot or test some of it out. So.
What's kind of the difference between, and just briefly, between CKLA and Wonders and some of the other applications? I'm just kind of curious of how do they?
You have more exposure in Wonders.
So one of the things to keep in mind is I think that both the Wonders and CKLA were good programs. They're really interesting looking at, if you look at the sample kits and when we bring in for the board to look at, and of course the board will approve any curriculum adoption and be a part of that. I think you'll notice that the Wonders is kind of like a traditional shiny book with all the pictures. But CKL is really interesting because when I was surprised when I saw it in the classrooms. It's kind of more like matte looking, but it's very based on science and history. And so I was just shocked to see how excited these 5th grade students were and how engaged they were in this, story about the Revolutionary War. So the content knowledge that they get rather than reading, it's more practical knowledge that they learn that they can apply. And the program really finds ways to engage them in that. And then also the things that the teachers spoke to the other teachers about are like, well, each component of it, the phonics, the spelling, the writing, because not any program's perfect. So which program could we get that had the best of all those pieces, so you don't have to supplement all these different pieces and parts. So, yeah, I think that with CKLA, it can take an hour and a half to hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the grade level for them to teach that lesson. But it includes either a huge focus on social studies or science. So it's kind of that cross-curricular thinking.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty awesome programs. And
Wonders is not cross-curriculum, cross-discipline.
it's not
as much.
as much. Yeah, it's definitely not as intensive on the social studies and science components. There's more fiction, I would say.
And that's what we're seeing
there's-
with CKLA, you could possibly take out social studies and science time because it is all embedded into it.
Mhm.
It's a lot more informational text versus fiction.
Okay. Are there some other, I'm just curious, some other programs that you might be interested in reviewing?
They're kind of looking at, because these are all K-5, so there's been a couple of them that have really, they're not, the only thing that's been questioned is, do we need to find a K-5 curriculum? Because that's been tough to find. And, would we be better off to find like a K-3 curriculum and do something different, 4 or 5? So that's the only thing that's kind of been brought up recently, that they're, because CKLA is 2 hours for our younger kids, and there's some concern with that. 2 hours is a long time for kindergarten, first, second grades to sit and
I see.
focus on.
It's broken down into different chunks. There's a skills piece
Yeah,
where they
2
work on
pieces.
like phonics and that kind of thing. And then there's the knowledge where it's the story that everyone participates in. So, it is a long time, but it's broken out into different kind of sections. So
Okay.
pretty interesting, but I was glad to bring some of the experience and knowledge and kind of work with Christina and the team to see which direction they wanted to go. Like I said, some of them were already on to CKLA and interested in it, but we, at the school I was at last year, we received a little literacy grant that the state had out. I had written in for that, and so we had gone through this whole process, and I had brought in experts from around the state and done the research and talked to a lot of our other peers in Montana. And those seem to be the 2 main programs that people are going with, and that are, current evidence-based and all of that. And then we looked at the list from Colorado. I sent out to the staff too. Colorado, for example, does a really good job of going through each curriculum and kind of rating them. And then we did talk about some of the different ones, like there's a K2 Super Kids is one that's really popular. But there was something to be said, the staff, there's plus and minus, there's good and bad things about it. Yeah, so.
Given that, I think probably pretty fairly state that our kids are probably behind in reading because of COVID, because they've fallen behind. So I think that's a fair statement. Which one of these kinds of programs do you think, whether it be these 2 or another one, would be most helpful in trying to catch them up?
That's part of what we were trying to design, and we started working on this core one, the core of the tier 1 level of curriculum.
Okay.
And then the tier 2 and tier 3 would be more intensive interventions. And that's what another component of, we hired that COVID learning specialist who is doing some of those tiered interventions, as well as our titled teacher. But we also utilize paras to help break those students out so they can get, like a tier 2 might be a reteach, pre-teach, or a slightly altered or additional curriculum for a certain skill. But a tier 3 is really like a whole nother program that is for skills that those students lack.
So tier 2 and tier 3 are really those catch-up tiers.
Correct, and I think our biggest thing is finding that strong tier 1, and then really making sure we're utilizing tier 2 and 3 like it should be.
If you have that
Okay.
strong tier 1, you shouldn't have that many students in tier 2 or tier 3, but when you adopt a curriculum, it does take a couple years for the district to catch up to that. And you might see a dip in scores when you have a new curriculum. So those kinds of things can be expected.
Well, and then again with COVID, just losing some
And then,
learning
right,
And
as
then
well.
it's hard also
Yeah.
to tell with COVID. So.
Yeah.
and we're seeing that, especially like kindergarten, because you saw those kids didn't get a little preschool, there's a lot bigger number of kids that didn't come in with the skills like we've had in the past.
Right.
So
Okay.
there are some a lot of tier 3 interventions that we really need to push. And
Well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
And the
for the
teachers
explanation
seem to be excited about it that are trying it out. We were trying to hold them off until everyone could come to a consensus. So we weren't trying all different kinds of programs or anything like that, but we could hardly keep them from doing that. They had those shiny boxes and those new materials that they were anxious to try. And the bottom line really, I think for a lot of the teachers was they knew that what they had was not working and that they had something better that they could offer students that was scientifically based and more up to date, and they just wanted to get started on it. So I was in Miss Gravely's classroom the other day, for example, and she was just so excited about the word trees they were building with with their phonics and how it tied into the story they were reading, and so they seemed to be pretty excited about getting moving on a new curriculum. So. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Very good.
Are you done? I guess I'll transition then into saying that for professional development, we were hoping for January for our professional development day for staff to bring in trainers and focus again on the literacy for the K-5 for the elementary. And then for the middle school and high school, I've been working with Brad and Sherry on discussion on some school law information and updates for the staff. And so we are planning on bringing Bia here that day. And that might be interesting for some board members to hear as well. And we'll try to loop the elementary in as much as we can and record it because I think that'll be just really important information. And also kind of have a trauma-informed focus. There was a section at Mtsba on trauma-informed and kind of some of those perspectives. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but Brad and I both thought that it was really great and would be good for staff to see. And I even reached out to Matt Johnson and who's the administrator in Browning and a few others that do a lot of that work. And they said that they would be willing to tailor one even more towards teachers and even possibly Zoom with us or something like that. So part of that stems from us having some, challenging students with some trauma and serious behavior issues that we're seeing. Some of that I believe, and we're seeing statewide, and as we talk in our school administrator meetings and things, stems from COVID and a lot of children truly having a hard time with being home for that period of time and then transitioning back into the social setting. And there's a lot of anxiety and different things that have occurred for different families. And then also we have, some new families and just people that, things have been hard for. So we have some students that need some more intensive mental health therapy, some more accommodations at school. And, we have to offer everyone an opportunity to have an education here. And if there's any concern that there's a mental health issue or disability, we have to make sure that we follow the right course of action and recommend them for testing and evaluation before we recommend them for disciplinary action. And so Bia will kind of go over that and explain that with the staff and why some of that's different than it used to be. If we have a student that we can't accommodate here and we can't support here and manage their behaviors here or figure out a way to help them out here, then we're going to be, eventually held liable for where they could be placed. And that becomes a huge impact to districts. So we've got to figure out a way to make it work for some of our students, and just want to get the staff some more professional development and training in that, and kind of BIA kind of brings the legal knowledge and the why to that conversation, and then also bring in some folks that are experts in working with those students and in those different scenarios. So we're excited for that. I just wanted to mention that I believe, are now complete with our safety inspection. The elementary school had a safety inspection by the state. So that involved Jim, Mr. Brittle handled that when they were here. For the most part, we only had a couple small issues with minor electrical kinds of things. And then lots of documentation that they wanted provided that I scanned in, and then they sent another report that Christina needed to follow up on. So I think we got that checked off our list and off the table. We're just a little too close to Helena, I think. So we get head up for a lot of these things. Tomorrow we have our nutrition inspection audit. So we just seem to get lots of these. Another state kind of compliance thing to mention is that in the past, the school was identified as targeted for special ed. So that means that we had a certain area within special ed that we were performing at the lowest bottom 5% in the state. It had to do with special ed attendance. Because of that, and because of COVID, they didn't reassign or reevaluate schools. So they just keep transferring that title over until next year. So we are applicable for the funds that go along with that designation. If the district would like me to complete that application, I would submit it tomorrow. And then that would be funding that we would put towards our special ed department and attendance and that kind of thing. So is that something that you guys would be interested in? In the past, we did not apply for that funding. And it is
Absolutely,
approximately
if you recommend it, if you think it's
$10,000.
beneficial, I mean.
I think
absolutely.
we could use the professional development.
But the long-term goal obviously is to get out of that.
Yes,
target.
if you are targeted for more than one identification period, you then become comprehensive, and then you don't have the option. Then people will be coming in to tell us what we need to do. So we will be exiting that, definitely is the hope. So we'll check on our data and how that's looking. And then on the ESSER and ARP homeless grant, we did not receive the $5,000 to where we could accept it on our own. So I reached out to Dan Erspens and Steve Morgan. Steve Morgan's the new superintendent in White Sulphur, and Dan is in East Helena. And so we started looking into it, and then we reached out to the co-op, and they agreed to be the fiscal agent. So we are going to be co-oping together. Otherwise, we couldn't accept the money individually because we didn't qualify. And the co-op agreed to be the fiscal agent. So we will be doing homeless, which kind of goes along with that trauma-informed and other professional development opportunities for our schools. The only other option was to be involved in a statewide one, which who knows where the trainings would have been held or if they would have been in a direction that met the needs of our communities. So we kind of thought that this helped our local communities a little better. So we got that completed and submitted. And I updated our safe return plan, and Joe uploaded that to the website for me. That was a requirement to have done in the last few weeks. So I don't know if you guys remember that last year. And I just added our new policies, including our new masking policy to that, and got it updated on our website and let OPI know that we had met that requirement. We had a really fun day here with the MSU Extension Office. Allison did a great job, and it was their Big Sky leadership team that she's been putting on. And we had fun with the FFA kids, did a great performance for them. And they were really active and involved. They toured the building, and there was a lot of mainly local Broadwater community members, some retired, some from all different walks of life. So it was a really dynamic group that we got to host at the school. And then the student exchange program, we can table that for later, but there is potential that we may have an opportunity for some student exchange coming up in the future, and we'll have the teachers will be coming to talk to you about that. So we don't have to talk about it tonight, but just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that could be coming. And I'm excited I did a small art contest with the kids, and so I have some beautiful art on my desk that I'm gonna frame and put up for the rest of the holiday season. So it was fun to have some of the kids participate in that. And that's about all I have. I got to catch after I was at basketball practice, I got to catch the end of the concert last night, and then it's just definitely a wild week. So we're having with all the music performances and basketball and everything else. So it's been a ton of fun. Does anybody have any questions for me?
The only other thing I wanted to add after Rich left, but I think we touched on it last month, but DAC did have their education specialists stop by.
Oh, yes,
And they have reached out and are starting to put things together on, how to involve the students and staff in doing that. So hopefully there'll be more information to come, and they did mention to him that at some point, hopefully he will come to the board meeting himself and visit about what he does. That is something that, we talked about early, and it is taking place.
Yeah, Brad has had a conversation with him and
Yeah, he's gonna come speak. We have a 6th grade careers class that he's gonna spend a day or two in visiting with those students about some of the various things. And hopefully, one of the things I asked him to speak about with them were some of the, the gender stereotypes and some of the people that are, like we have one of the assistant project managers, I believe she is, working on ours and getting her in and trying to get some of those kids that may not ever considered things like that, just to be aware of what's out there for people, boys, girls, everybody. So he was really excited about it. It'll be good.
Yeah, he's really got a lot of energy. I think he'll be awesome. And then one other thing I didn't mention, last week was Computer Science Week, and Governor Gianforte and his wife came in and saw the new Mac lab, and were interacting. He was interacting with the kids about their business logos that they were designing and giving them feedback. So that was pretty neat. And then we went to Miss Flynn's classroom, and they talked a little bit about the book that they'd been reading that he had read. So that was pretty cool. And we went to Miranda Howell's classroom, and she was doing an interactive field trip of Washington, D.C. on the computers. So that was neat. And we stopped and visited Brad and looked at the upgrades in the middle school and the new STEAM room coming. So I think that went over well.
Very good.
Well, I was just gonna mention a couple things. I just wanted to remind us, committees and all, the different committees that we're on to. So if we can reach out as board members to administration and just, whether it be a technology committee or wellness or whatever committee it might be, to make sure that we continue to participate in those committees. And I ask that you guys as administration, make sure you reach out to us as well. With the technology committee from, what was it, just before the last board meeting? I missed that, but I just had to miss that. But I just wanted to remind us to continue to do that, to continue to reach out and participate. And then I think and I would like to talk to all of you folks about this later, but my semester is finally coming to an end, thankfully. So that would give me some time. I would really like to just step into some classrooms or, come and visit with administrators and students and shadow and just kind of participate and see where things are and how things are going. And I'd like to just do that.
Yeah, I think that the curriculum committee, we definitely need to get together. The operations committee, we did meet recently and are working on one topic that I don't think we're quite ready to bring to the full board yet, but we're trying to get some work done. And then for the library board, we do have a library meeting coming up next week.
20th,
Yeah. So we are going to be meeting with the library
What time is it?
regarding the library.
6?
I think it's 6 o'clock. Yes. So, but yeah, I think definitely the curriculum one, if we can get that committee together, and then the community involvement. I don't know if you have a way of involving them in your art night, might be an idea too. Yeah.
And the point being, sometimes we all just get so busy, we get a little disconnected. So the hope was to reconnect a little more so.
Right, and then maybe share out at our meetings.
Yeah,
I put
absolutely.
operations committee down, but we didn't have anything quite prepared to share out yet, this meeting. But yes, on the 20th, the library committee the library board has a meeting at 6 o'clock that the library committee's been invited to. So.
Very good, thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned. I thought you were gonna come all hay when you were on break. You know what you told me when you sat down?